So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today, I'm going to do something a little bit different, but I hope, inshallah, useful. Let me give you a little bit of a background, and then we'll go into this poem. Iran was, in the beginning, not Shia. In fact, they were forced into the Shia mazhab a few hundred years ago. Okay, Iran actually used to be mostly Shafi'i mazhab. It was all Shafi'i mazhab. And then a certain revolution took place, which I'm not going to talk about today, and then most of the people in Iran were forced into Shiaism. So this is so that you understand the historical context, that when in the beginning Shiaism, the idea of Shia means to follow, and they were called Shi'anul Ali, the followers of Ali radiallahu anhu. These early followers, that they called them Shia, are very different from the Shias of today in Iran. And they were much more closer to the Zaydi Shias, for example, in Yemen and in other areas. So, they were not people who said the Quran has changed. They were not people who cursed the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. In fact, many Sunnis were considered Shias because they preferred, I'll give you an example of history, they preferred Ali over Uthman, which was in itself a very problematic situation. But the reason this happened, so this developed because Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, he established the Umayyad Empire, and it was seen as either you're on the side of the Umayyads or you're on the side of the Hashemi, which is the tribe of the Prophet ﷺ. So Ali was Hashemi, and that was the tribe that he belonged to. And the Umayyads were the other tribe, powerful tribe, that had taken control over Arabia. And in the early Umayyad dynasty, in the early period, they used to curse the family of the Prophet ﷺ. And many people were against this. They used to curse the family of the Prophet ﷺ until Omar bin Abdul Aziz became the Khalifa, and he added the words, instead of cursing the companions, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُكُمْ بِالْعَدْلِ وَالْإِحْسَانِ وَإِيتَاءِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى وَيَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنكَرِ وَالْبَغْيِ يَعِظُكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ اذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ يَذْكُرْكُمْ فَاسْتَجِبْ لَكُمْ فَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ. There's something that you must have heard at the end of every khutbah. This comes from Umar bin Abdul Aziz as a replacement to the cursing that they used to do to the companions of the Prophet and to the family of the Prophet ﷺ. So those people, many of those people that were against the government, for example, including many people at that time considered Abu Hanifa, because he was in jail against the government, and they felt that his alliance is with the Hashemiya tribe instead of the Banu Abbas tribe or the Banu Umayyad tribe. So they felt that Abu Hanifa is like Shia. And we know the closeness of Abu Hanifa to the family of the Prophet ﷺ, Jafar as-Sadiq and other, Nafsu Zakiyah, Muhammad bin Abdullah. We know this in history, and maybe one day I'll talk more about this. But I'm trying to say that Shia back then was not what it is today. And so I'm clarifying this for the Sunni Muslims, but I'm also clarifying this for the Shia Muslims. And so the fatwa that we would put on, for example, the early Shias is not the same fatwa we would put on the latter Shias. There's no doubt that Shiaism, in its normative way, because Shiaism is a very wide spectrum. The Zaydi Shias are the closest to the Sunnis, and they're very good, mashallah. And there are other forms of Shiaism that are closer to the Sunnis. But the Ithna Ashariya, especially the ones in Iraq, some of them, as one of the Shia authors and intellectuals, Ali Shariati himself divided the Shias into two, the black Shias and the red Shias. So the Shia of the early times are very different from the Shia of the latter times. In fact, the Shia of the early times, the people that people consider Shia, like Abu Jafar as-Sadiq, for example, these were actually part of the Sunni tradition. So what I want to share with you today is a poem written by, quote-unquote, a Shia. Okay? And what is the lesson in this is that so the Shias of today can think about the Shias of before, and if they are doing things in their way, and the Sunni Muslims to know that our job is to call the Shia brothers and sisters to the original that they had. They first need to get there. So we're going to do this through a very interesting and a very beautiful poem. Okay, and then after that I'm going to explain different aspects of it. But this is just a general poem on the love of the Ahlul Bayt, the love of the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so now let's take a look at this, inshallah. So the author wants to express his seriousness of his love for the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and so he does it with this poem. Let me start with the first. طربت ما شوقا إلى بيد الأطرب. He said, I was in, you can say, really high level of joy over the yearning of the true yearning, or إلى بيد الأطرب أطرب ولاعبا ولا لاعبا مني. I'm not somebody who plays around, he says. You know, I'm not playing. This is serious. That even ذو شيب يلعب, even the old people, they play. I can't. I'm like young and I'm not playing, and I see it. It feels for me as if old people are playing in this life. Okay, so what is he serious about? So he's going to come to that, but first he's going to tell you what are the things that have not distracted him. Okay, so now let's see what he says next. تشددوا بي شوق. He said, increased for me the shawq, the love, right? وحاجت مشاعري. And he said, my feelings, my awareness became strong, you can say. Not ليس حنيا إلى النساء جميلات ناقيات ألوان. Not for women who are beautiful and their skin tone is beautiful. And then he says, تثبت بمشاعري, my longing increased. ولا رغبا في لهو, nor did I have raghba, desire for entertainment and amusement. أو صيد, nor hunting, even though he's a young man. أو غزل, ما أن كان سن يمكن له أن ينحلو. Nor did I want to sing songs or spin songs, things that even the older people would use as amusement. So what is it that he yearns for, right? This is the point. And then he says, وَلَمْ يُلْحِينِي دَارٌ, I was not prevented from a house. I mean, these things didn't distract me. وَلَا رَسْمُ الْمَنْزِلِ, nor the color of the house. وَلَمْ يَتَرَبَّبْنِي بَنَانٌ مُخْدَبٌ, nor was I distracted by buildings that were made beautiful. Okay? So he's trying to say that things that even distract the older people, I'm not distracted by them, nor was I distracted by the girls. Right? Because I was single-minded, focused on one thing. وَلَمْ يَشْغَلْنِي بَيْتٌ يَحْجَبْ عَنِّي مَحْبُوبًا, nor was I busy in front of a house, so to say, that was preventing me from the one whom I loved. وَلَا يُطَلَّ الْأَقَفْ حَالِيَهِ أَبْكِي وَاسْتَبْكِي, nor was I standing there crying and weeping, you can say. كَمَا لَمْ تَسْتَوِينِي أَنَامِلُ مَحَالَتِي بِهِنَا تُحَاوِلُ إِغْرَانِي, nor was, some lady that had henna in her fingertips, or some, beautiful coloring of henna that was trying to seduce me. That was not what was occupying me. Okay? So then he says, so first was, I'm not being seduced by amusement and so on and so forth. And the second is, what are the things that give you fadila or honor? Okay? And so he's saying these things that people consider bad luck or honor, those things don't affect me. So he said, al-sanih min bata'a wat-tir alladhi yuji min yusari. That bird or antelope that comes to me from the left, right? Or the things that, I'm paraphrasing here, the things, the animals that come to me from my right. He says, Ahlul Hijar yashta'un yatasha'umun. They have yatasha'amun. They think of it as a negative, as a bad omen. And they think if the antelope comes from this side, it's a bad omen. And if a bird comes from this side, it's a bad omen. And he says these are things that don't affect me. Okay? But what are the things of fadila? What are the things of good luck? It's not if an animal is coming from this side or this side, but what are the things that have my attention? Okay, so now he's going to mention وَلَكِنْ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِ الْفَضَاءَةِ وَيَنْحَى. But it is the people of fadila and the people that prevent you from doing wrong things. خَيْرُ بَنِي Hawa, the best of the children of Hawa. وَخَيْرُ يُطْلَبْ, and they're the people from whom the best things are desired. وَلَكِنْ إِلَىٰ أَصْحَابِ الْمَكَارَمِ, and it is the people of, you can say makaram, people of great character. Okay. وَلَكِنْ إِلَىٰ أَصْحَابِ الْمَكَارَمِ, but from the people of generosity, وَالْحَلُومِ, and sweetness. وَأَفْضَلُ مِنْ أَنْجَبَتْ أُمُّ الْبَشَرِيَّةِ. Okay, and that which is even greater than the one whom Hawa gave birth to, you can say. وَمَا هُوَ جَمِيلٌ, and what is beautiful. عَلَى دَوَائِمْ, always continuously beautiful. مَطْلُوبٌ مِنْ جَمِيعٍ, it's the thing that is desired from everyone, meaning generosity of character, sweetness, and to have perfection is something that's, he's saying, required from everyone. Bani Hashim Rahti Nabi Fa'innani. He says that is who? That is Bani Hashim, the people of Bani Hashim, meaning the Prophet's family. Rahbat al-Nabi fa'innani bihim walahum arda miraran wa aghdabu. He says, look, for that family, I'm the one who's happy. I'll do whatever it takes for them to be happy, and for them I become angry, and for their happiness I'm happy. So he's saying this, and this is what the kind of like the early Shia, they were like, right? They weren't cursing others, they were exalting one group of people, meaning the companions of not companions, the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then he says, Bana'a Hashim Ali Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says the children of Hashim are the family of the Prophet. Qad kasartu ajlahum hayati. He says, I've broken everything for that life that is dedicated to the family of the Prophet. Then he says, Imtathil lima farada alayya hubbuhum, trying to reach whatever is required by their love. وَأُجَلِّبْهُمْ أَثُورٍ وَأُقَاتِلْ مَرَّاتٍ أَدِيدَاتٍ. How many times I have fought for them. Okay, not necessarily like physical fighting, but just fighting. وَمَنْ أَجَلَّ مَصَالِحَهُمْ أَشْعَرْ بِسَعَادَةٍ وَقَبُولٍ. And it is for this that I live, for this sa'ada. This is the real thing. This is where my desire and longing and attention is. And this is my sa'ada. This is my happiness. And وَأَجِلَّهُمْ أَثُورٍ, and for them I revolt. وَأُقَاتِلْ مِرَارًا أَدِيدَاتٍ, and for them I fight how many times. وَأَجْلِ مَصَالِحَهُمْ أَشْعَرْ بِسَعَادَةٍ وَقَبُولٍ. And he says for them, you know, they're making things right for them, is where I'm hoping for sa'ada, happiness, meaning facility in the hereafter, and acceptance, qabul. وَفِي حَيَاتِ كُلُّهَا لَهُمْ, and all of my life is for them. Okay? وَخَفَضْتُ لَهُمْ مِنِّي جَنَاحِي, and I have mawaddata, and out of love and closeness, I've put my wings over them to protect them, like from what people say about Hassan or Hussein or the family of the Prophet in that particular time period. إلى كنف طافه أهل المرحبا. Okay, and then he says, this is for the people that were the most generous and the best of the best people, basically. وأنزلت آل نبي ما ألحق به من الحب, and came down to the family of the Prophet is whatever is joined with love. وإجلال إلى أهل المكانة رفيعة, and they are and whoever joins with them, they are, meaning the family of the Prophet, are people of makan rafi', a high place. وقدر العظيم, and they have a high value. الذي يعظمته يسمع جميع, and they have greatness all encompassed. Okay, ويشلمهم برحمة والعناية, and this family comes with anaya and rahmah, blessings and mercy. فما لآل محمد شيعة, so why would I not be of the people who follow the family of the Prophet? So this is the word Shia as it's used in early literature. Okay, and let me also mention here, since I'm here, he was born in 60 years after Hijrah, and he lived from 60 years after Hijrah to 126. So you can see he's like early Shia influence. And these were people, basically, they were not like the Shias of today, but these were people who basically said Ali was right, and Hassan was right, and Hussein was right, and the others were wrong. Muawiyah was wrong. So this is the only extent to which they had went to in the early days, the majority of them. Okay, in fact, for example, many of the Imams, like Abu Hanifa, was considered Shia. Okay, because Imam Nisai was killed because he was considered Shia. Okay, because he wrote a book on the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, and he wrote chapters on different and he didn't have Muawiyah, who's considered like the head of the dynasty of the Umayyad period, radiyallahu an. And because of that, he was killed, and he was considered Shia. As were any Sunni that was against the government was also considered Shia. And the people that were Shia of that time were against the government because they felt that the government should have been in the hands of the family of the Prophet ﷺ. Anyway, continuing. فَمَا لِآلِ مُحَمَّدْ شِيعَةٌ, what's wrong with me that I would not be the follower of the Shia means to follow. Okay, that I would not be the follower of Ahmad. وَمَا لِيَ إِلَّا مَذْهَبُ الْحَقِّ مَذْهَبُ, and why would I not follow the madhab, the way, the religion that is of haqq? So that was to haqq, to him. لا أميل أو أحب في حياتي سوى شيعة نبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. I will not yield, and I will not love anything except for the family of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. وما أقدت من دين أو سياسة, and whatever is the contract regarding my deen or my politics, اتبعوه لا يجد حق غيري, there will be the rights of no one in that except for them. وبأي كتاب أم بآية سنة ترى حبهم عار علي تحسب. He says, by which book, meaning Quran or the Sunnah of the Prophet, where do you see it is a fault of mine to love the family of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. معنى في أي كتاب نزلت سنة ترى إن حبي لهم يحسب عارا علي. He says, which book or which sunnah says that if my love is a fault of mine to love them. Okay, so we'll end here on this. Now I will show you, inshallah, one or two more things to kind of give you an idea of that time period, right? So we talked about him being between 60 and 100. So even at Hijrah 300, what happened? Imam Nisai, who was one of the 6 books of authentic hadith, the Sunnah of Imam Nisai, traveled to Damascus, Syria in 302, where he noticed people displaying some hostility to Ali radiallahu anhu. Because this had been, as I was saying, in every Jummah khutbah they were doing this. He therefore wrote a book to honor the character of Ali and started lecturing from the masjid. He had only read a few lines, okay, because Ali was the Khalifa and Muawiyah radiallahu anhu was the Khalifa, and then Hassan radiallahu anhu made peace between them, and then, over time they started speaking against and trying to lower Ali radiallahu anhu. So this was a reaction to them, that then, in reaction to that, it was kind of like, no, Ali was better than Uthman, meaning the Umayyad period, the Umayyad dynasty goes back to Uthman, so they tried to say Ali is better. But this was the extent to which the situation was at that time, right? He had only a few lines when he was accused. He had only read a few lines when he was accused of being a Shia and was beaten badly by a crowd. Such he received severe injuries to his body. In this state, he requested some admirers to take him to Mecca. It was after reaching Mecca, Imam Nisai passed away, rahimullah. Okay. So now after this, let's see. So the idea of this, presenting this poem, comes from this brother over here. And so before I start talking about, or share with you what he says, let me mention, why did I say this? Why did I present this? I wanted to present this to show my Shia brothers and sisters that, look, the early Shia, they didn't curse the Sahaba. They exalted the family of the Prophet and members of his family, which is fine. If you think Bilal radiallahu anhu is the best Sahabi, la haraj, there's no blame in that. Everybody can have a different favorite companion of the Prophet. In principle, there's nothing wrong with saying, I like Ali more than another companion. In principle. But if you start cursing others, then you're causing a problem with the people who love the others. And the early Shia, they didn't curse. They didn't consider it a good characteristic to curse. It's just against the general and universal principles of Islam. قُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا, say good things to people. Right? So, they didn't curse. And it's not good to curse. And the Shia who don't curse should tell the Shias that do curse that they shouldn't curse. Because this really, the people are taking advantage of this. Right now, especially in this political situation, people are trying to create wars over the fact that some of the Shia brothers and sisters curse the Sahaba. And it is something that is outrageous for a Muslim. But anyone who says, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, he's still Muslim. And this is why the early scholars like Imam Ghazali, Imam Ibn Hajar, Imam, all these great scholars of the early generation, Imam Nawawi, right? They didn't declare the Shia as kafir outright. Because why? Because they were very different from the ones we have the situation with today. But even today, we have many Shias that are close to the Sunni Muslims, like the Zaydi Muslims. It's not a small number, it's a very large number. So, my point here is that here's a Shia who says, I'm a Shia, and he praises the family of the Prophet, but he does it in a beautiful way. He doesn't hurt other people's feelings. And the lesson for the Sunni Muslims is that our job is to tell the Shia to go back to where they were, meaning historically, in the historical context. And there's nothing wrong in principle for somebody liking one companion over the other, as long as they don't have bad things to say about the others. And the Sunni Muslims should understand that the Shia has not been the same throughout history, nor was Iran ever a Shia place. So now, let's see what this brother has to say. He also makes the same points that I made, but he's going to make it in Arabic, and then I'm going to translate, inshallah. He makes some good points. He's reading that part of the poem where it says, بِأَيِّ كِتَابٍ أَوْ سُنَّةٍ. That, do you think that it's wrong for me to praise the family of the Prophet? Where is it in the book of Allah or the Sunnah of the Prophet that this is wrong? He's reading that couplet of his.
وهو للكميت بن زيد الأسدي من قصيدة في مدح آل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم.
He's talking about the book by the way, I can show that to you also. Let me show. This is his book. Kumaith. He wrote this book. It's about 600 pages. Okay, and it's all full of poetry, mostly in favor of the family of the Prophet ﷺ, and the same adab that you saw here, he had there. But this brother is going to explain to you how it all began. So now he's going to, how he, something about his character and the character of these early Shia.
هذه القصيدة هذا البيت من قصيدة يقال هي من جملة قصائد.
So he's saying, this is a group of qasidas, meaning poems, you can say, and
يقال لها الهاشميات.
It's called Hashimiyat, from the family of Hashimiyya. So, because he preferred the Hashimi family over the Umayyad family. Okay?
وهي من جيد شعر الكوميت هذا.
And it's amongst the best poetries of Kumais, this person.
وقيل فيها الهاشميات لأنها في مدح بني هاشم رهط رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم.
And he did this, by the way, this scholar that's speaking is a Maliki scholar, so just so everybody's clear, he's Sunni. And he did this in madha, in praise of the family of the Prophet, because he didn't like the government of that time. Basically, this was a political movement in the early phases of its existence. And even though there were some radical elements, like Abdullah bin Sabah, but the majority of the people were not of the radical. Things become radical over time, right? Kind of like what's happened with the Republican Party in America and with the liberal Democrats. So now they're going to the far side of homosexuality, for example, or they're going to the far side of Trump being pro-Christian, anti-abortion, like the far side of that, which is good in some ways because of certain moral aspects. But I'm simply saying that things don't necessarily start off radical; they become radical over time, and this is what happened with the Shia. Anyway.
وهي من جيد الشعر ومما سار من شعر الكوميت. وقد ذكر
He said this is amongst the best poetries of Kumaith.
الأصبهاني في الأغاني بسنده إلى النوفلي هذا قال كان أول ما قاله الكوميت بن زيد الأسدي القصائد الهاشميات.
So he's basically giving the sanad and saying that amongst the first things that he did as poetry was this Hashimiyat, okay? And this is how it began.
فسترها أول شعره.
His first poems, he hid it, because he wrote it and he didn't know if it was good or bad.
سترها. لماذا؟ لأنه يخاف أن يكون شعرا قبيحا فلا يحب أن يظهره.
And why did he hide it? Because he had poetry. He didn't know if it was good or bad. Maybe it's not good. So he wanted to hide it. Then he went to a great poet who was his uncle. So he went to Farzdak and he said to him, I'm the son of your brother, and I made this poem, so you tell me if it's good, or I'll show you read to you my poem, and then after you hear it, tell me if it's worth presenting to the people, and if you tell me, then I'll just hide it.
الكوميت بن زيد الأسدي فقال فرزدق صدقت أنت ابن أخي فما حاجتك.
He said, yes, you're my son's brother. What do you want? What can I do for you?
له الكوميت نفث في لساني فقلت شعرا.
He said, it came to my tongue and I said some poems.
فأحببت أن أعرضه عليك.
And I would love to present them to you.
فإن كان حسنا.
If it's good.
أمرتني بإذاعته.
Then you command me to make it known to the people.
وإن كان قبيحا.
And if it's ugly.
أمرتني بستره.
Then you command me to hide it.
وأنت أولى من ستره عليه.
And of course you will be the first ones to hide anything if I did it wrong.
فقاله الفرزدق صدقت.
So Farazdak said, meaning his uncle said, you're right.
إني لأرى لك عقلا حسنا.
He said, I see that you are an intelligent man. So he said, give me poetry that matches this intelligence that you have. Meaning, he didn't show this poem to just anybody. He went to the best of the best, and he kept it hidden. And, he took some smart steps. He's like, well, if your poetry is as good as your intelligence, well, let's see.
وأرجو أن يكون شعرك مثل عقلك فقل.
He said, say it.
فقال الكوميت هذا أنشده قصيدته يقول طربت وما شوقا إلى البيض أطرب.
So this is now he's reading the poetry, right? I was yearning for, meaning he's talking about the family of the Prophet, but this is the beginning part where he's like, I don't want the amusements and so on and so forth.
طربت وما شوقا إلى البيض. البيض النساء البيض النقيات الألوان.
Bayd, the first, is I don't want it's not the women's attention that is where my attention is, not where the women are, right?
غير مشوب ألوانهن غير مشيبة ألوانهن قال له فقال الفرزدق وإلى أي شيء تطرب يا أخي يا ابن أخي. He said,
and so as he's reading it, he's like, okay, so he's answering the poetry and saying, okay, so what is it that you want then? What is it that you desire?
ما هادشي هو تيطربوا ليه الناس أنت تقول لا. فقال الكوميت ولا لاعبا مني وذو الشيب يلعب يعني أذو الشيب يلعب. فقال الفرزدق فالعب يا ابن أخي فإنك في أوان اللعب. فقال الكوميت ولم يلهني دار ولا رسم منزلي. تعلمون أن الشعراء كانوا من عادتهم أنهم يستوقفون الأصحاب على الأطلال والديار ويسألونها ويبكون عندها ويستنطقونها. هو يقول ولم يلهني دار ولا رسم منزلي.
He's saying, poets usually used to stand in front of people's houses and read to get attention, right? So he's like, he's saying in his poetry, I don't stand in front of anyone's house weeping and reading poetry.
ولم يتطربني بنان مخضب. بنان مخضب بالحناء يعني بنان مرأة بنان تلك البيضاء. فقال له الفرزدق وأي شيء تطرب إليه.
So Farzdaq said, what is it then you want? As he's reading the poetry.
الكوميت ولا أنا ممن يزجر الطير همه أصاح غراب أم تعرض ثعلب ولا السانحات البارحات عشية أمر سليم القرن أم مر أعضب. فقال الفرزدق نعم لا تتطير. يعني كانوا إذا خرج الرجل.
And he said, I don't believe in, omens, good omens or bad omens. Okay. And the poet, Farzdaq, he said, don't تطيروا, لا تطيروا, don't believe in pessimistic omens, good omens, this animal came or that animal came.
يضرب في الأرض لحاجته إذا تعرض ثعلب أو صاح غراب أو مر به.
If a wolf passes by or a crow passes by, this is not good or bad omen.
أعضب القرن مكسور تشاءم وتطير ورجع وإن مر به سليم القرن تفاءل ومضى. فقاله لا تتطير. ثم قال الكوميت ولكن إلى أهل الفضائل والتقى وخير بني حواء والخير يطلب. يعني هذا إلى هؤلاء أترب.
These are the people that I yearn for, the people of the children of Hawa, who are from the family of Hashemiyah. Okay.
فقال الفرزدق ويحك من هم؟ فقال الكوميت إلى النفر البيض الذين بحبهم إلى الله فيما نابني أتقربوا. نزل بدي قال لي كاع شكون؟ فقال الفرزدق ويحك رحني من هؤلاء؟ فقال الكوميت بني هاشم رهط النبي.
So when he said the children of Hawa is the best of the children of Hawa, so the poet said, the one that was listening, who are those people? And then he says it's Bani Hashim.
فإنني بهم ولهم أرضى مرارا وأغضب. فقاله الفرزدق يا ابن أخي أذع ثم أذع والله إنك لأشعر من مضى وأشعر من بقي.
So he praised his poetry.
وفي هذه القصيدة يقول بأي كتاب أم بأية سنة ترى حبهم عارا علي وتحسب.
He repeats that same poem. By which book of Allah and which sunnah of the Prophet do you blame me for the love of the family of the Prophet?
وما لي إلا آل أحمد شيعة وما لي إلا مشعب الحق مشعب وجدنا
And it's not for me to love anyone except for the family of the Prophet and to follow the straight way.
لكم في آل حميم آية تأولها منا تقي ومعرب وجدنا لكم في آل حميم.
So he refers to a surah in the Quran, which says that that the Prophet asks you of nothing except for kindness to his family. This is mentioned in the Quran.
آية يقصد قول ربنا قل لا أسألكم عليه أجرا إلا المودة.
I don't ask you of any reward for this nubuwah of mine, إلا مودة في قربى, إلا except for kindness to my family. So he also puts that in the poem.
وجدنا لكم في آل حميم آية تأولها منا تقي ومعرب إليكم ذوي آل النبي تطلعت نوازع من قلبي ظماء وألبه ألم ترني في حب آل محمد أروح وأغدو خائفا أترقب.
And then he's obviously reading poetry to praise the family of the Prophet. Do you not see how much I love the family of the Prophet?
وكنت لهم من هؤلاء وهؤلاء مجنا على أني أذم وأقصب أناس بهم عزت قريش فأصبحوا وفيهم خباء المكرمات المطنب إلى آخر ما قال. وهي قصيدة قلت لكم أنا من جيل الشعر. والكميت هذا يجعلونه في شعراء الشيعة ولكن
He was a poet of the Shia, he says.
يعلموا أن الشيعة هؤلاء
These Shias of that time,
الأوائل. ما معنى التشيع في مصطلح الأولين؟
the terminology of the word Shia in the beginning was different from the terminology of the word Shia today.
هو حب آل بيت الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم وتفضيلهم.
They just gave fadila to the family of the Prophet. To certain people in the family of the Prophet, they gave them fadila. They said they deserved the leadership over the others.
يعني الذي يفضل عليا على عثمان هذا عندهم.
They gave fadila to Ali over Uthman, meaning Ali is better than Uthman.
ولا يلزم من ذلك أنه يسب عثمان أو
They didn't curse Uthman. They didn't do that.
يسب أبا بكر أو يسب
Or curse Abu Bakr.
عمر أو
Or Omar.
بعائشة رضي الله عنهم جميعا بفحش.
Or saying anything nasty about Aisha radiallahu anha.
أو يزعموا أن القرآن محرف أو يزعموا
Or believing the Quran has been changed.
العصمة لأئمة أو يراهم فوق مرتبة النبيين والمرسلين أو غير.
And nor did they put people at the level of the prophets, other people in their imamat that they have, the imams they have. They didn't do that. It was simply the government of that time came from Muawiyah radiallahu anh, and they preferred Ali, and they thought it was more the right of Ali, and he was the true Khalifa, and the Khilafah should have been given to him. And it was wrong to kill Hassan, and wrong to kill Hussein and the family of the Prophet. And they were rebellious against the government because the deen of Allah was not established or was diminishing. Until Omar bin Abdul Aziz became the Khalifa, but that was only a period of like 1 year and 9 months.
ذلك من الضلالات التي يراها الروافض اليوم يعتقدونها يعني في التشيع في المصطلح القديم هو تفضيل علي على عثمان.
In the old terminology, when the word Shia was used, it meant simply this person prefers Ali over Uthman.
ولكن يعني مع سلامة القلب لغيرهم من الصحابة. هذا معنى.
But they had سلامة القلب. They had a good heart, an open heart, you can say, towards any of the other companions of the Prophet.
هذا معنى التشيع عند هؤلاء وذلك هو.
This is the meaning of Shia according to in these first people that were later on considered Shia, you know.
يعني التشيع الذي عند تسمعون مثلا النسائي كان فيه تشيع وكذا من العلماء كان. Many of the great scholars were considered Shia because they loved the family of the Prophet or because they were against the government, including Imam Nasa'i, as I already showed. هذا هو المعنى معنى التشيع عند أولئك.
This is what it means that in the early part of Islam, when the word Shia was used, it was mostly against the injustice of the government, and it was of course the preference of Ali, and that the Khilafah should have continued through him rather than through Muawiyah radiallahu anh. That Ali radiallahu anh and his family had more right to move the Khilafah in the direction that they wanted. and the cursing of the family of the Prophet in the Jummah khutbahs. So this was all a reaction to that, and then over time it became more and more radical. So you find, for example, Imam Ibn Taymiyyah being very harsh with the Shia, which they were not at the beginning, the ulama. And then Sha'ulillah Muhaddas Dalmi rahmatullah alayhi, same thing. And so this is why in the early part of the Muslim world, none of the great scholars, Ibn Hajar, Imam Nawawi, Imam Ghazali, and others, they didn't declare them as kafir. Still, anyone who says La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah is Muslim. Yes, they can have deviant opinions and ideas that is not part of the narrow path of the straight path as far as aqidah is concerned. So, because, you know, there's action and belief, right? So your actions, somebody can have the perfect belief and then their actions are completely off. Or somebody's actions are completely right, but then their belief is completely off. So anyway, this is what I thought you will enjoy and kind of get an idea of how the type of adab and respect that existed in the beginning. And in this political climate crisis where other people are trying to exploit our differences and exploit us, we need to go back and remember how we differed and where the original differences, or how respectful we were with one another. And so this is a call to the Shia to go back to the original and to not curse the Sahaba in a way that hurts the feelings of the majority of the Muslims of the world. And the Shia should declare that we're, institutionally, that we're not going to do this, or we're not going to allow this. Qom University should declare this, for example. They're a big university. And it's also a lesson for the Sunni Muslims that not all Shia are the same. Even today, many good Shias exist, like the Zaydi Shias, for example. They have the same, basically, way of life as the Sunni Muslims, and belief system also almost the same. Yes, they have certain preferences, but they don't curse Abu Bakr or Omar or any of Uthman and the others. So I just thought this would be important to know for the Sunni Muslims that not all Shias are the same, and for the Shia Muslims to know that in the beginning, many of you were very different from how you have now become. Thank you. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.